My name is Hannah, and this is my year of less stuff. Hey y'all, welcome to the Roaring 20s and to this, my introduction video for my 2020 project, which is going to be my year of less stuff. My journey on YouTube has been an attempt to mindfully evolve my intense relationship with beautiful things. It's an intense relationship that used to result in really dangerous overspending, dangerous in the sense that I was mortgaging my entire future on the altar of beautiful things because I was spending on them down to my last dollar. So the first year on YouTube, I did a no-buy year. And then this past year was my beauty budget. So I carefully started buying beautiful things again, but I was budgeting for them with a very strict budget. This year, my project is going to focus on stuff, the amount of stuff that I own that falls into the category, my categories of beautiful things, the kinds of things that I really love to buy, collect, cherish, and get good use out of, the kinds of things I like to surround myself with. Basically, the goal is to end the year with less stuff than I started with. It pretty much boils down to that, but in this video, I'm going to go into detail about the structure of my project. I am also going to be budgeting this year, but I'm making some key changes to my budget. So I'm going to talk about the year of less stuff first, and then at the end of this video, I'll tell you about what my budget's going to be like in 2020. I'm not going to abandon budgeting probably ever. I think I'll probably have to have some kind of beauty budget for the rest of my life, but I decided to loosen the strings of my budget a bit, sort of push out on my own into natural moderation and see how that goes. So let's get into the meat of the video. It's going to be year of less stuff, then beauty budget. Yeah. This project is only going to deal with 3 categories: makeup, skincare, and clothing. And the clothing category includes accessories and shoes as well, basically everything that I use to cover and adorn my body. I'm excluding homewares this year. I feel like I rarely, if ever, felt the desire to compulsively overspend on homewares during my budgeting year. It was just the houseplants. When I bought 2 houseplants with my budget and then I wanted to buy more and more, that was the only time I felt housewares getting in amongst me in that old and dangerous way. And pretty much all of the homewares or housewares that I had occasion to acquire this year were things that I acquired in collaboration with Joe, things that we both felt like we needed. And it just no longer feels like something that it's really, really urgent that I keep a close watch on, that I budget for. And so I'm not going to include it in this project either. If it somehow gets out of control, if somehow the number of things in our home starts swelling by leaps and bounds and it's all because of homewares, then I will reassess. I think giving myself a little bit of wiggle room to stop and reassess and rewrite is an important part of this project. I've kind of written that into the project this time, which is a little bit different from last year and different from the no-buy year. But I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be okay. I actually don't feel like housewares are danger zone for me anymore, which is interesting. So the stuff that I'm talking about with my year of less stuff is my stuff. My makeup, my skincare, my clothes, and my accessories. Homewares are different because it's our stuff, and I kind of like that I'm dealing with just my stuff. It's like my group of stuff that's mine, that's in our house, because I brought it here and because I theoretically, hopefully, use it. And the only concrete rule of my year of less stuff is that at the end of the year, on December 31st of 2020, I must own fewer items total across all of those categories added together than I have now at the beginning of the year. I'd love to have fewer items in all 3 categories, so I'd love to end out the year with fewer accessories and clothes than I started with, and less makeup and less skincare stuff. I'd like to sort of lessen in all 3 categories, but it might not shake down that way, and I'm open to that possibility. So it might be that at the end of the year I have a teeny tiny capsule wardrobe and more makeup than I started with. I don't think that that's going to happen, but if that happens, as long as the overall number, the overall stuff count is lower at the end of the year, then I will have succeeded at my goal. I don't know how much stuff I have right now. in these three categories. So the first thing I'm going to have to do with this project is to take an inventory, and that will be my next video, and it will probably not go up until Sunday. Just for a week or two, I think I'm going to go back to my old standard Wednesday, Sunday uploads because I have completely exhausted myself. I have slain myself on the battlefield of the December upload schedule, and I also just got back from being out of town, so I need a little break to catch my breath, and I have to catch up on a couple of other projects. But between now and when I film the video for Sunday, I'll be taking inventory of all of my clothing and accessories and shoes as one category, all of my makeup as another, and all of my skincare. And when I take that inventory, I will probably mark down what I own in some subcategories. Like, I'm curious to know how many sweaters I own, as well as to know how many items of clothing I own overall. And if anything is of serious interest, I'll report back about that in that video. But the actual number that matters is the overall count. When you add all of that stuff together, how much is there? How many items are there? So I'll be counting the number of discrete items, but objects that come in a set will count as one. So a pair of shoes will count as one item, and an eyeshadow palette will count as one item. But I've decided that I'm going to count my single eyeshadows as one item each, like individual items. So they will swell the numbers of the makeup collection for sure. So I'm going to take inventory now at the beginning of the year, and then I'll be taking inventory again at the end of the year. And when I take those inventories, again, I will want to know, like, how much stuff do I have in the clothing category? How much stuff do I have in the makeup category? Because I'm curious. It'll be interesting to see if anything shifts, how my tastes change. I actually don't know if I have more clothes than makeup right now, or vice versa. I don't even know. It might even be dramatically out of whack. There might be way more of one category than another. I don't even really have a guess. So I'm very curious to find out what the inventory turns up. But in the middle, during the year, in between the two inventory takings at the beginning and the end of the year, all that's going to matter is the overall number, the number of things that enter my life and the number of things that exit. And to keep track, I've decided to go for a very Luddite style method, very old school, pre-digital method. I'm just going to keep physical tally sheets with tally marks, and I'm going to tally up the stuff in. So everything that comes in will get a tally mark in the stuff in column, and stuff out. So everything that exits my collection in one way or another will give me a tally mark in the stuff out column. And that's just going to be my way of keeping track. And hopefully the stuff out column will be larger for the whole year. But even if the stuff in column swells and outstrips the stuff out in the middle of the year, that will be okay. That's not going to be kind of against my goals or against my rule. That will just be momentary, and then what I'll have to do is make sure that the stuff out column swells in even greater number to outstrip the stuff in column before the end of the year, because my goal is just to end the year with less stuff. But I will know at any given time, I'll know if I have more stuff or less stuff than I have right now. So I will show you the I didn't start it yet because I haven't, I mean, this is me starting the project right now. I'm filming this on December 31st of 2019. So I'll make the tally sheets tomorrow, and I'll show them on my channel periodically. I'll show them when they're relevant. So if I do a declutter and I mark a bunch of things on the stuff out column, I'll show you how things are going. When I do an empties video, I'll show you how things are going. If I do a reckoning and I decide to keep some things, I'll mark some tallies on the stuff in column and I'll show you how things are going. Maybe I'll show them on Instagram once in a while as well. I'll take pictures. You guys will be seeing those tally marks grow as the year progresses along with me. So if you've been thinking ahead, then you've probably thought about this already, but there are going to be pretty much just 3 ways for stuff, my beautiful stuff, to exit my collection. And those 3 ways are, number 1, if I use something up. So if I turn it into an empty, using it up and then recycling the container, that will be a way for me to gain a tally mark in the stuff out column. If I give something away for one reason or another, that's another way for it to exit my collection. And then the 3rd way is if I let it expire. This pretty much just applies to perishable stuff like makeup and skincare. But if I don't use something quickly enough and it goes bad and then I have to throw it away or wash it out and recycle it, that's the 3rd way that something can exit my collection. So those are the 3 ways that I can shrink the numbers of my stuff. And conveniently, very symmetrically, there are also 3 ways for stuff of this nature to enter my life. One way is if I buy it. The next way is if I receive it as a gift from friends and family members. And the third way is if I receive it in PR. For PR and gifts, and possibly certain items that I buy myself for review purposes, but we'll be talking about that at the end of the video. For all of those three types of things, the purgatory box, the famous purgatory box, will still be in full effect. So when something is sent to me that I didn't choose because it's a gift or it's a gift from a brand, I won't automatically tally it as something that's stuff in. Instead, it will go into purgatory, and I'll give it some time, and then I'll make the decision. And I'll be continuing to do that on camera. Those are some of my favorite videos to film, and I know that some of you guys love to watch them. So I will still be doing that this year, but the stakes will be much, much higher for the reckonings, because if I decide to keep something from the purgatory box, that means I'll be adding to my stuff. My stuff number will grow. I'm starting the year with pretty much nothing in the purgatory box. I did a ton of reckoning at the end of the year. A couple of things sneaked into the purgatory box since then. It's sitting back there and I just see like a couple of things that Lauren gave me are in there, and then one little PR package came from Derma E, so there are 2 things from Derma E in there. But I'm pretty much starting with a clean slate when it comes to the purgatory box. Those things aren't going to be counted in the inventory because they're in purgatory, and that's how it will be with the purgatory box going forward. But I'm pretty much starting with a clean slate, and then I'm hoping to end the year with nothing in the purgatory box as well. So it will be totally emptied out by the end of the year. That means that no matter what passes through purgatory this year, the number of things that I keep from the purgatory box will have to be fewer in number than the things that I use up or give away. Regarding giving things away and regarding decluttering, I just went through a serious declutter, what turned out to be a rather vicious and extremely streamlining declutter. I'm sitting here in front of my beautifully cleansed makeup collection, and when I got back from vacation, I was like, hey guys, you're so spacious. Like it was really cool. I opened my drawer and looked at my blushes and highlighters, and I was like, I can see all of them. It's really, really exciting. And I did that on purpose before the end of the year because I wanted to start the year with that cleansed collection. I wanted it to be as condensed as I could possibly get it without really going through a bunch of angst. I basically didn't want to bring a bunch of fluff with me into 2020 because I didn't want to give myself the option of gaining a huge number of tally marks in my stuff out column sort of close to the beginning of the year just by doing that huge declutter. It was important to me that all of that stuff exited my collection before the project started, before the inventory was taken. Basically, I'm starting the year without very much wiggle room. So right now, at the beginning of the project, I don't particularly want to give away or throw away any of my stuff. So the most appealing option by far right now when it comes to decreasing my overall stuff number is option number 1, which is use stuff up. Last note about this, sort of logistical note, the backups box that I've been talking about, where I've been putting stuff that I definitely want to keep and try, but that I don't want to open yet, that I don't want it to be active. I've been putting a lot of mostly skincare and hair care and stuff in the backups box. That's not like the purgatory box. That's my stuff. That's stuff that I have decided to keep. That stuff will be inventoried. So I just have one dry shampoo right now that I'm using that's sitting on my vanity. And I also have one dry shampoo in the backups box. So that will count as 2 items when I do that inventory. And then if like an extra dry shampoo were to come to me in PR, if I decided to keep that and put it in the backups box too, then my stuff number would swell by 1. I would have to count it. So that's pretty much it for the year of less stuff in terms of like the basic mechanics of the project. That covers just what I'm planning to do. And I want to move on to talking about the budget, but first I did make note of a couple of just thoughts that I've been having about this as I've been planning it, things that have been swimming around in my brain at the start of this project, and I just wanted to address them in this video. So note number 1 is that I have no idea what is going to happen. I do not know how this project will affect me. I don't know if it will be hard or easy. I have been trying to anticipate certain roadblocks that I might come up against, but I'm not even necessarily attached to a certain kind of manifestation of this project except for the outcome at the end of the year. So I'm doing this project because the outcome makes sense. I genuinely want to have fewer things in these 3 categories altogether at the end of the year than I have now. And I think that that's something that I've wanted for a long time, for years. I think in theory, I would have wanted that. It's just so hard to remember when you are getting a bunch of beautiful stuff in PR, or when you're at the mall and you're buying a bunch of beautiful stuff, or when stuff's on sale and you have the option to buy 4 instead of buying 2 for the same amount of money. It's just hard to remember this aspect of my ethos, this desire to have fewer, nicer things, and just really to have less stuff surrounding me. It's so hard to remember that. So I feel like by sitting in this project, by thinking about that goal all the time, it'll just be a constant reminder of this priority. And I'm not a minimalist. I'm not like a dyed-in-the-wool minimalist. I mean, I don't feel like I have a general idea of what it means, but I haven't done enough reading about the different ways that the contemporary movement of minimalism can manifest to even come close to claiming an association with those theories, because I'm just me living my life and I haven't decided to subscribe to that at all. But I have wanted less stuff for a long time. And I just haven't done anything concretely to bring that about. I just haven't done anything. I mean, I have focused on trying to buy fewer, nicer things towards the end of last year. And so I did bring about sort of making the number of things that I bought and brought into my life smaller when I went through the year of budgeting. That did happen. But I haven't really done anything to ensure that the numbers of my stuff shrinks a bit instead of growing. But that's all that I really know about what I hope will happen. So note number 2, it occurs to me to mention that I'm absolutely positive that my stuff number overall shrunk dramatically during my no-buy year. So during that year, I had hundreds of empties, and I was only replacing certain staple skincare items. And I also did a huge closet declutter halfway through the year that I didn't film because it was too heart-wrenching, it was too intense. I would never have been able to be as vicious as I was. I sold off and I gave away a ton of stuff in the clothing and accessories category that year as well. So there's absolutely no way that I didn't end up with fewer things at the end of my no-buy year than I started with. It was probably hundreds. I probably shrunk my stuff number during my no-buy year way more than I'll be able to do it this year, because I just have less, even with all the PR that I got last year, I still have less stuff now than I had in my life at the beginning of my no-buy year. What I'm trying to say is that by default, my no-buy year was also a year of less stuff. And this year is really interesting because I'm asking myself to focus on using up the stuff that I have and wearing out the clothes and accessories that I have. But I'm also allowing myself to buy new things if I want them. And I'm also allowing myself to consider keeping some of what I agree to receive in PR. So I'm trying to do both. I'm kind of like trying to see how they can work together realistically in the long term. In a weird way, it's like a combination of the no-buy year and the budget. And my third note is that I absolutely have to mention in this video that my experience receiving PR in 2019 during my budget year, my first budget year, and my plan to continue to judiciously receive some PR going forward, those experiences, that fact, that's a huge motivating factor in the design of this project. If I wasn't on YouTube and PR had never come my way, it might very well be that my budget year, my first budget year, 2019, would also have been a natural year of less stuff, the same way that my no-buy year was. But instead, 2019 was a year of more stuff. My collection of stuff, especially makeup and skincare, grew. So it's not an exaggeration to say that this project, my plan to tally stuff in and stuff out, is at its core a strategy for dealing with free stuff. It's designed to force me to be as honest as possible with myself when assessing the value of PR products. I will be really curious to see if my feelings about PR, which have already kind of started to change, they were evolving. Last year was the first year I've received PR, so it's just been the 1 year. And I received more PR in the second half of the year than I did in the first half. And so my feelings have been changing about it. They've been constantly evolving. And I will be curious to see if they continue to change, if this year changes them dramatically, and if my wishes surrounding PR in my life change. Again, I don't know. Okay, note number 4, also regarding PR. I think that this is something that will seem really obvious to a lot of you, but it's something that I absolutely have to state unequivocally and clearly at least once, and I think that this is the place to do it. Because I am on YouTube and I receive some PR, The manifestation of this project in my life and on my channel will be dramatically different than it would be for you if you were to follow along with a similar project at home. Most people have two ways of acquiring this kind of stuff. Number one, buying it themselves. Number two, receiving it as a gift from friends and family. I have three ways. And the third way, which is brand gifting, so receiving stuff for free from brands, that third way accounts for hundreds of stuff, hundreds of items more than the first two ways combined, or at least it did in 2019. And I have a pretty small YouTube channel, all things considered. So I'm over here, I'm trying to end the year with less stuff than I started with. And I am highly aware that my collection of stuff over the course of this year is going to be assaulted, possibly with hundreds of items that are all trying to weasel their way into my collection. They're all trying to get a spot. They're all trying to get through the purgatory box and become mine and earn a tally in the stuff in column. I know that. I know that that is going to happen. That is the project. That is what I am curious about. That is the journey I'm choosing. I love that for me this year. And it is just simply not what it will be like for you if you decide to do a project like this. Or another way to say it is not what it would be like for you if you were to do a project like this. Most of you. I mean, if you're out there and you're also a YouTuber and you're watching this, then yeah, what I'm doing is what it would be like for you. But the vast majority of you, those are the people to whom I'm speaking right now. It's just not going to be an approximation. What you see me going through is not going to be a clear and direct approximation of what it would be like for you to go through a similar exercise. If you do this at home, your personal collection of stuff will only be assaulted by the stuff that you buy and any stuff that you might receive as gifts from friends and family. In a way, that will make it a lot easier for you if you decide to do something like this, because your numbers will be smaller overall and you'll have fewer decisions to make, which is a big one. But it will also make it for you a year of more austerity. Especially if you're budgeting, you will just have fewer opportunities to refresh your collection of stuff by sort of switching things out with like a one in, one out type of system. You'll just have fewer opportunities to replace old stuff with new stuff. As a micro influencer, I will have many opportunities this year to replace stuff that I already have in my collection with something new that I didn't buy myself, with something that comes in PR. I've thought about that and I have done my very best to demotivate myself to do that like switcheroo thing very much, by decluttering my collection down to its very core before I started the year. That was why I did that. I wanted to make it as unappealing as possible for me to like switch something out. I didn't want to leave a bunch of fluff that it would be really easy to just let go of and then just bring a bunch of new stuff in. Side note, I think, and once again I'm theorizing, but I think that the year of less stuff will make me a much harsher critic of PR. Adding a new thing to my life will be a really big decision this year. And I think that the project will demotivate me to keep most PR. If I were you, I would be really excited to see reviews that come from this standpoint. And if I were a brand, I would be terrified to send me PR. And that might be a thing that happens this year. We will see. If you are worried about waste when it comes to this part of my project, don't worry. It may look at times like my channel will be like a revolving door of product, but I have a really, really easy and natural way to donate products that are lightly used or unopened to women in need. That's something that I do consistently. And I actually think it's going to be kind of amazing if my channel or just my life becomes kind of like actually a revolving door of self-care products from companies to those women this year. I actually don't think that's a bad thing. But to get back to my original point, which I've been kind of skipping around because I really want to say it, but I feel a little bit uncomfortable being so aggressive. I just want to make it clear once and for all so that I never have to say it again ever, that I am not trying to replicate the experience of the average woman trying to decrease her belongings. I am not trying to produce a public model on YouTube of what it would be like for most people to do a year of less stuff. I am not trying to show you what it would be like for you. This is not a self-help channel. This is not a handbook. I, Hannah Louise Poston, am attempting a year of less stuff in my context because of my context, and I'm documenting it here. This project is for me. My hope, as I've said so many times, my enduring hope is that some of you will find that watching my channel adds value to your life. But please don't mistake that for thinking that my project is going to be a mirror of your life or of what it would be like in your life, or an approximation of what you would go through if you approached this project. I am a real person with a complicated life like we all are, and a unique context like we all have. And my project is designed for that context. It's designed for me. Any comment this year, this is like my New Year's resolution, one of them. Any comment this year complaining that my project is unrealistic or unrelatable because I receive PR will be summarily ignored. I will be skipping those comments, no hearting, no responding, just skipping. Whether or not I receive PR is not a group decision. We are not workshopping this. I am making decisions for me because I have all the information. You don't have all the information about my life. I am making decisions for me. I am living my life in an exploratory fashion. I am making YouTube videos about it. And if you find that watching them enriches your life, then I hope that you will keep watching them. Case closed. Phew, okay, let's get back to the good stuff. So again, I have no idea how this is going to shake down. It might be that just my empties every month make enough space in my life for me to buy with my budget everything that I want to buy and keep from PR everything that I might want to keep. That might be true. And it might be that there's not enough room for me to buy everything I want to buy and keep all the things I want to keep in PR, and it might be a real struggle. It could be smooth sailing and it could be choppy seas. I do not know. One thing I have considered is that getting a bunch of really awesome stuff in PR might encourage me to boot stuff out of my collection preemptively, even if I ordinarily wouldn't want to let it go. And that could create kind of like a hunger for what's new, or like a total focus on what's new because the stuff that comes in PR will be new. That wouldn't be ideal. I hope that if I start going in that direction, I'll kind of reassess. But another thing I've thought about is that if I receive some totally amazing things in PR, it might encourage me to let go of stuff that I'm keeping around for the wrong reasons, or stuff that I don't really love in real life as much as I thought I loved it. It could kind of go either way. There are really good ways to look at and bad ways to look at a variety of events that could transpire. One thing I will say, and this is it, and then we're going to move on to the budgeting. One thing I will say is that I'm not going to put a ton of pressure on myself not to replace some of what I have with really nice things if they happen to come in PR. I don't want to force myself to reject lovely things that I have earned. And it's a little bit weird, side note, and then we'll stop talking about comments altogether. It's a little bit weird when I read comments from people who seem to think that I should force myself to reject lovely things that I have earned. Like, what is that? But it's maybe just my personality. I'm not really about moralizing and stringency and self-punishment. I am about joy and self-examination and paying close attention to myself so that I can evolve slowly over time. What I do want to do is to remind myself with this project that no matter how lovely things are, I will ultimately be happier if I let go and live with a little bit less. And I think that I can remind myself of that without necessarily never keeping a piece of PR or never switching something old out for something new, or like bringing harsh moral judgment down on me when I decide to get something new and get rid of something old. It doesn't have to be 100% black or white. I think that I can succeed in the goal of teaching myself to be happy with less and to let go of more. I can succeed in that goal without having that be the ultimate rule that I live by every step of the way for the entire year. That's why I'm talking about inventorying at the beginning of the year, inventorying at the end, and just sort of seeing what happens in between. And ultimately, even if it's a couple steps forward and a couple steps back, ultimately hiking towards that goal of ending the year with less. Okay, so that's it for all of my thoughts about the year of less stuff. Isn't it going to be wild to see what happens? I'm really, really curious. Let me briefly go over the changes to my beauty budget for this year. It's not the main focus of my project, but it is something that I'm going to be keeping track of, and I will be updating you guys periodically, and I will still be doing my videos at the end, I think, of every month about what I bought with my budget. So we will all be on board together. Major changes though, it's actually going to be really interesting. So major change number one, I am not going to be including replacements of staple items in my budget anymore. So that's everything from skincare, like if I need to replace my cleansing oil and I'm buying it myself, I'm not going to include that in my budget. I'm just going to buy it. It'll be interesting to do this because this will, in many ways, cancel out the effect of PR on my budget, because a lot of the ways in which PR has alleviated my need to spend my budget over the year of 2019 has been that I haven't had to buy certain staple items because of PR. So if I'm not including those staple items in my budget, then it's almost like the budget becomes less tainted by PR. Probably not completely untainted, because I occasionally receive something in PR that I really did want and that I was thinking about buying with my budget, like those Cleona shadows. That happened. But I do think it's a way of separating them a little bit more than they have been separated. I'm also including replacing staple things like sneakers, bras, underwear, things that I really, really need to sort of like be healthy and comfortable in my body, even if they fall into the realm of clothing. If I wear out a long sleeve shirt, I'm not necessarily going to buy another long sleeve shirt and say that it's a replacement. I'm going to try not to like trick myself like that. But sneakers, definitely, that's something that I will just completely wear through. And shoes have been one of the hardest things with my budget because they're so expensive. Good shoes for me. And I really, really do a number on shoes because I walk a lot and my feet are pretty sweaty and smelly like the whole rest of my body. So I'm going to let myself off the hook for having to sort of split my budget between those basic, unexciting staples and the beautiful things I love to buy, which that's really the category of things that I need to budget for. At the same time, I'm lowering my monthly budget for this year. And it's partly because the reason that I made it $200 a year, $200 a month, $2,400 a year last year was because I was aware that it was going to have to cover not only ruffled blouses, but also bras. And so I really wanted to give myself enough room to be able to replace what I need and also buy some of the things that I wanted. But now that the budget is kind of just for wants, although not entirely, because all clothes except for staples like bras and stuff are still being covered by the budget. So there are going to be some cross need wants, some things that are both needs and wants that I'll still have to buy with my budget. So it's not entirely splitting the needs from the wants, but you can see what I'm saying. If I'm going to be buying bras and sneakers outside of my budget, the budget doesn't need to be as high every month. And I also think that it was a lot of money last year when I looked at what I spent, or this year, because it's the last day of the year when I'm filming this. When I looked at what I spent and I looked at what I bought, I was like, I spent too much. I would like it to be a little bit less next year. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going down just a little bit. I'm going down to $150 per month. That breaks down to $1,800 per year instead of $2,400 per year. So it's actually quite a lot less per year. But I won't be mad if I come in underneath that. If I end up spending more like $1,500 in the year, which is more like $120 or something, I won't be mad. So I'm going to try to think about spending between $100 and $150 per month for my beauty budget this year, and we'll see how that goes. Which brings me to the most important, in my opinion, change to my budget in this year, which is that I'm going to relax a little bit around its edges. I'm going to sort of soften the walls. One really important way in which I'm going to soften it is that I am going to allow myself to borrow back from future months. Basically, I'm going to be thinking more about the yearly total and less about the monthly spending, because I really feel like I trained myself in terms of the stopping and starting. So I feel like my stopping and starting muscles have gotten really strong, and that's going to make it something that I can do. If I had started out 2019 with just a yearly budget and allowed myself to borrow back, I would have spent the whole budget in the first 2 months. I wouldn't have been able to stop once I started. That's why I had to have that monthly budget in place when I was just coming off of my no-buy year. But now I feel like even with the whole yearly budget at my disposal, I could still go into no-buy mode for a month or two because I just don't want to be spending right now. I could totally see myself doing that. I might even do that for the first couple months of the year. And because I think I can do that, I think that that's the right choice to make. So it's really just going to be a yearly budget. And it'll be interesting to see how much I end up spending, like how it ends up breaking down month by month. But I'm going to keep between $100 and $150 a month in mind just to keep myself on track. And then I'll just be adding it as I go and seeing how long it takes me to get to the $1,500 or $1,800, which is kind of my benchmark goal for spending. I mean, staying under that is my goal. I'm also not going to force myself to report back on my YouTube channel about absolutely everything that I buy with my budget. I probably will, and I'll also keep you abreast in general of what I buy for replacements. So if I replace my bras, which I keep saying that because I'm definitely going to replace my bras in January. I'm like counting down the minutes until we turn over into the new year because I really need to replace some of my bras. So yeah, when I report about how I spent my budget in January, I'll probably be like, I bought some bras. I'm just not going to be so specific about accounting for every single dollar and reporting every single dollar back to you guys. I want to find out if I have the grit to stick to my goal of like a kind of natural moderation, even without the accountability of intense public scrutiny. So I want to see what I will do if reporting back absolutely everything in every end of month video isn't a rule. Again, I will probably still, you're going to know what's going on. I'm not going to like hide stuff from you and like buy like a leather jacket and not tell you. Like that's not what I'm talking about. It's more just like a shift in my way of thinking about it. That if I just end up like picking up a little, I don't know, pair of lashes at the drugstore, the fact that I was reporting absolutely every single thing back on my channel, it was a huge motivator for me last year in terms of being super careful about how I spent my budget. I want to know how much moderation is going to be there, how much grit, like how much strength to do what I think will be best for me will be there if I remove that part of what I'm doing with my budget. I hope that makes sense to you, and I hope it's not too sad to you guys. Again, I'm not going to cut you out of the loop. It's for me that I'm doing that, and I will talk about how it goes. The thing that I do want to be a little bit strict about is staying under my budget for the year pretty much. So I've written here month by month I'll be flexible, but my goal is to spend less than the 1800, not exactly the 1800, but less than the 1800 in the year. It would be amazing if I could stay under 1500 for the year. I'm not going to beat myself up if I end up staying under 2000 for the year, but I feel like that would be the absolute limit. If I end up going over 2000, I'm going to be disappointed in myself. So that's kind of like how I'm sketching it out. The top goal would be under 1500. The really disappointing outcome would be going over 2000 of spending for extras, beauty budget type things. Basically, I'm keeping the same goals, but without the same intense level of rule making, because I want to see how I fare if I'm trying to like work the goals just into my everyday life and just make it a part of the way that I live rather than like a really strict project that I'm abiding by. I want to see if I can get my new and healthier habits to solidify as instinct, as lifestyle. However, and this is big, absolutely every purchase with my beauty budget will be subjected to the year of less stuff rules. So everything I buy will count as something, a tally mark in the stuff in section. So if anything, that's probably what will keep me from buying more stuff. It's sort of like a shift from an intense focus on the finances to just a focus on volume. I am planning to check in about this halfway through the year. I'm again giving myself a little bit of room. If something seems to be going horribly wrong when I check in 6 months, if I've spent everything, or if I feel like there's a lot of anxiety surrounding spending because the rules are more wiggly than they were before, if I check in and I don't feel good about it, I will rewrite the budget. It's not a thing where I've like planned it now and I'm going to see it through to the end of the year, come hell or high water. I'm going to allow myself to be a little more flexible in terms of the budget this year. The other part of the project, the year of less stuff, I'm hoping that that's one that I'm going to have just picked and that I will stick with and that'll ride all the way through until December. Okay, and lastly, we're closing in on it, but there's one last thing I wanted to say about budgeting. Lastly, separately, I am going to give myself a little bit of it's like not my beauty budget, but a little bit of an allowance, a business expense allowance for buying a couple of items of makeup to review here and there, specifically for my channel. It'll be like a product review business allowance or a product review business investment. And I'm thinking that I would like to review something interesting maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 months. And this is entirely to keep PR from dominating the review aspect of my channel. Because given the amount of makeup fatigue that I've been feeling lately, I could totally see myself spending nothing on beauty next year. Like I could see myself going through all of 2020 and not buying any new makeup with my beauty budget, because I just feel a little bit desensitized to it right now. As someone who receives PR, it doesn't seem like the most exciting thing to buy, and I could totally see myself saving my budget, buying some beautiful items of clothing or pairs of shoes or purses or something, and just letting the makeup that I review be all PR. And I don't want that to happen to my channel, and I don't want to do that to you guys. So this is my way around that. And it also makes sense. My channel at this point is healthy enough that it can afford to invest a little bit in itself, which is awesome. So I'm not even necessarily going to pick things that I desperately want. I feel like if there's something like a Natasha Denona palette that I really want it and I want to own it, that's something I'll buy with my beauty budget. These are going to be things that I really want to review. It's like things I'm super curious about, things I think you guys might be curious about, totally willing to take requests because I will have this little bit of allowance for it. And it'll be things that I wish I were receiving in PR and I could review, but I'll just occasionally buy one of those things myself. So I will also be keeping track of this just mostly for my own financial reasons, for like business reasons. I would like to stay under $600 a year for this. I would like for my YouTube channel to pay $600 a year for me to buy new things for review. That breaks down to $50 a month. I probably won't distribute it that way. I could see myself spending a little bit more than that, like every 2 months to review one nice thing. So the perfect example is the thing I'm thinking about doing first. I was thinking about placing a Glossier order. I used to be really loyal to Glossier, and then I just totally kind of fell out with them and didn't really like anything for a long time and ended up decluttering almost everything I'd ever had. And I've kind of been thinking about giving Glossier a second chance. So, maybe spending like $80 on 3 or 4 things from Glossier and then doing a review video about that. I'm curious about, for example, their mascara. I'm not curious enough to buy it with my budget. I don't want it in my collection enough. So it doesn't make it through my stringent policies when it comes to protecting my own collection from stuff. So I wouldn't be going out and buying it with my beauty budget, and therefore I would never get the chance to review it. But if I'm doing it in this context, if I'm doing it like as part of my channel and with this little bit of allowance from my channel revenue to kind of reinvest in my channel, then I could get it and try it, and I could talk to you guys about it, and I could give a really good review of it. And I just think that that would be a good idea all around. So that's what I'm going to do in terms of a little allowance for review. Things that I buy with this money, my channel money, this hopefully less than $600 a year for review, things that I buy with that money will go into the purgatory box. Unlike things I buy with my beauty budget, I will be buying them to review, and then I will be reckoning with them, and that will be part of the review. So it's almost like I'm giving myself an allowance to buy my own PR. I don't know if that really makes sense, but that it makes sense to me. And I think it's good to be transparent with you guys. If I get to the end of the year and I'm like, look, everything that I didn't get in PR that I bought myself to review, that all added up, that cost me $600. Like, I'm fine with you guys knowing that. And I think that it's good to know that it costs money for YouTubers to buy things for review. And a lot of times on YouTube, I think people don't draw a line between what they're buying to review and what they're buying because they want it. I would like to draw a very clear line in the sand. I am ready to be a small business, a person here on YouTube who buys things to review once in a while. Not everything, not all the new releases, but once in a while. But I need to be very clear with myself, and I would like to be very clear with you guys about things that I'm buying to review and to separate those from the things that I'm buying because I really, really want them and I feel like they are worth my personal spending money because it's not the same thing. So that is it. It is all a bit more fluid and intuitive this year. I'm hoping that I will discover that I can moderate even without firm rules in place. And I'm hoping that my motivation for moderating what I buy will be an appreciation for having fewer nicer things and an appreciation for the things I already have instead of the motivation being really, really strict rules like my no buy or my budget. And most of all, I hope that by guiding myself instead of boxing myself in, because that's what I feel like this is. I feel like the year of less stuff, and especially the way that I'm planning to budget, it's like I'm guiding myself this year, whereas before I was really like making a clear box that I had to stay inside. So I hope by guiding myself instead of boxing myself in, I will be able this year to continue to increase a sense of gentleness and care for myself that I feel like I've been cultivating over the past 2 years, but to do it without backsliding into my old behavior. It was like before I've been trying to increase the sense of gentleness and care for myself, but I had to have those boxes in place so that I wouldn't backslide. And I'm hoping now I can kind of like push myself out push myself out without training wheels and still be gentle with myself and still care for myself. But I hope that I'm far enough along on this path that I won't backslide, that I still won't backslide even without being boxed in. I'm not totally sure I'll be able to do it, and that's why I'm going to keep a close eye on myself and definitely do like a really big check-in halfway through the year, the state of things, just really, really making sure that I'm okay. But I want it. This is the future I want for myself, so I'm willing to go ahead and try. And that's what I'm going to be doing with my year of less stuff and with my new and improved, not necessarily improved, but my evolved and appropriate for me at this stage beauty budget. And that is it. That's my introductory video for my projects this year. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. And next video is going to be really fun. It'll be a Sunday and it'll be the inventory. I'm not totally sure how I'm going to do it. I'll probably just count everything up and then I'll report back on my findings. And it'll sort of be like a follow-up to this video because there will be more chat about the project this year and what I expect it to be like. Yeah. Welcome to 2020. I hope everyone had an amazing new year. I'm really excited to journey through this year with you. And I trust that you have it in your plans to take extra good care of yourself this year so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.